بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم
الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله
أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أما بعد فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم يا أيها الذين آمنوا كتب عليكم الصيام كما كتب على الذين من قبلكم لعلكم تتقون أياما معدودات ومن كان منكم مريضا أو على سفر فعدة من أيام أخر وعلى الذين يطيقونه فدية طعام مسكين فمن تطوع خيرا فهو خير له وأن تصوموا خير لكم إن كنتم تعلمون says chapter 2, verses 183 and 184 that I recited for you as I recited them last week. Sadaqallahul Aliyyul Azim. And in fact, I missed out one verse, but I'll read the translation out anyway. O you who believe, fasting is prescribed for you as it was prescribed for those before you, so that you may guard against evil. For a certain number of days, but for whoever among you is sick or on a journey, he shall fast a light number of other days. And those who find it extremely hard may effect redemption by feeding a poor person. So whoever does good spontaneously, it is better for him. And that you fast is better for you if you know. And then I won't, well, okay, I'll read the translation. The month of Ramadan is that in which the Quran was revealed, a guidance to men and clear proofs of the guidance and the criterion. So whoever of you is present in the month, he shall fast therein, and whoever is sick or on a journey, he shall fast a light number of other days. Allah desires ease for you, and He desires not hardship for you. And He desires that you complete the number, and that you should exalt the greatness of Allah for having guided you, and that you may give thanks. When my servants ask you concerning me, surely I am near. I answer the prayer of the suppliant when he calls on me, so that they should hear my call and believe in me, that they may walk in the right path. Last week we spoke about the purpose of fasting, and as it says, it was prescribed so that you may guard against evil. The question then arises, what is evil? What is regarded as evil in some societies is perfectly acceptable in others. And there are many examples of this. For example, in the West, drinking alcohol is perfectly acceptable. But of course, in Muslim majority countries, it's regarded as an evil. In some African tribes, it doesn't happen now. In some African tribes, cannibalism was perfectly acceptable. But in the rest of the world, it was abhorred. Polygamy, another example, polygamy is a criminal offense in most of the West, whereas it is acceptable in Muslim majority countries. And I can go on and on. There is a long list of such items. So this leads us to the conclusion that the evil spoken of here, it refers to those moral matters which should be universally regarded as evil for all time. And unfortunately, that's not been the case. In a nutshell, the evil is exploitation of other living things. I have deliberately used the term living things rather than humans, because I believe that it cannot be that we exploit horses and cows and donkeys and other animals, etc. Even if we don't exploit other human beings. Sadly, exploitation of living creatures is worse in many Muslim majority countries. And we refer to the above verse and we say that we fast so that we learn, we find out how a hungry person feels when he cannot find food. And that means that we develop empathy for people, not sympathy, empathy. Empathy is putting yourself in their shoes and feeling what they feel. But then I would suggest that this applies to other living creatures as well. It applies to animals as well. Does a horse, a dog, a cat, a donkey, etc. feel any differently when they are hungry and they can't eat and they can't access food? Their feelings are exactly the same. They feel pain in the same way as human beings. Some of you might have seen some natural history programs by, I forgot he's a famous documentary maker, but I forget his name. In many programs, you see animals displaying exactly the same emotions as human beings do. For example, when a lioness sat down with her face over a dead body of its child. Actually, it wasn't its child, it was someone else's child. And licked it and caressed it. And tears ran down its face. And tears ran down its face. You could see that on television. Is that any different from the human emotion when the same thing or something similar happens to human beings? Let's look at an example. In my own family, my daughter had 2 cats, and they sneaked out of the house one day, and then they started to run across the road to try and cross the road. And one of them was hit by a car and died, and the other saw it. The one who survived, the one who saw this incident, now restricts himself to the back of the house, to the backyard. Does not even dare go to the pavement. Isn't that anything other than human reaction? That when we find something is dangerous, we try and avoid it. And this is what this cat is doing. But if you have a pet, ask yourself, doesn't it show the same emotions as human beings? Cats and dogs, who are the most common pets they have, don't they come and they want to be petted and they want to be embraced and they want to be kissed? They may not be able to express these emotions in the same way as we do. But does it not mean that they feel hunger and persecution and fear and love and pleasure? So when we talk about avoiding exploitation, why is it that we exclude these living things? And we always say, well, we fast because we want to empathize and we want to see how a hungry human being feels. What about a hungry horse? I've seen myself that horse is so hungry and laden with so many such weight that it's just lying down on the ground, being beaten by its owner to get up and take the load to wherever it needs to go. Unfortunately, humans exploit everything, including each other. In Muslim majority countries, exploitation of child labor and women is worse than that of men, and it continues during Ramadan. We're not just talking about missing the midday meal or whatever. We're talking about working 14, 16 hours a day in burning sunlight. What's the point of a business owner misusing and mistreating his labor force while he plays holy to the society by fasting and by saying his 5 daily prayers and making sure he goes to Taraweeh during Ramadan? What is the point? But I mean, I mentioned the Muslim majority countries, but I don't exempt the West. They collude with these people for child labor and almost torture and persecution of women and others in the labor force. Branded designer goods sold at exorbitant prices in the West are produced in third world countries using not only cheap labor, but child labor. But as a factory owner, someone made a documentary about this and they interviewed this factory owner and said, don't you feel ashamed that there is child labor in your factory producing these goods? And he turned around and he said, don't you feel ashamed that you buy these branded goods? If you stop buying them, then this exploitation will stop. You collude. And he then went on to say that these managers with MBAs from Harvard, they come and they discuss a contract with us and they screw down the prices and screw them down and screw them down. Don't they know that if we employed adult labor, we could not produce goods at these cheap prices? And where does the profit go? Does it go into is it passed on to the consumer? Does it go into the pocket of millionaires and billionaires? The whole point about fasting is to make Muslims realize that exploitation is evil, that greed that leads to exploitation is evil. This is what it says, so that you may guard against evil, that you may guard against greed and against exploitation. And fasting should be training us, should be preparing us that when confronted with this temptation, we fight it. And we don't exploit any living creature, be it human or animal or anything else. If this doesn't happen, then ask yourself, does Allah have any need of you going hungry? No, He doesn't. Barakallahu lana wa lakum fil Qur'anil Azim wa nafana wa iyyakum bil ayati wa zikril hakim innahu ta'ala jawadun karimun malikun barrufur rahim. Alhamdulillah nahmaduhu wa nasta'inuhu wa nastaghfiruhu wa nu'minu bihi wa natawakkalu alayhi wa na'udzu billahi min shururi anfusina wa min sayyiati a'malina man yahdihillahu fala mudilla lahu wa man yudlil fala hadiya lahu. وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد. اللهم بارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد. اللهم انصر من نصر دين محمد عليه وسلم واجعلنا منهم واخذل من خذل دين محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم ولا تجعلنا منهم. عباد الله رحمكم الله إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون. اذكروا الله يذكركم وادعوه يستجب لكم ولذكر الله أكبر والله يعلم ما تصنعون. Allahu Akbar, ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, ashhadu anna Muhammadar Rasulullah. Hayya ala salah, hayya ala falah, qad qamatis salah, qad qamatis salah. Allahu Akbar, la ilaha illallah. Allahu Akbar. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen Ar-Rahmanir Rahim Maliki Yawmiddin Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in Ihdinas siratal mustaqim Siratal ladzina an'amta 'alaihim ghairil maghdubi 'alaihim waladdallin. Amin. Wal 'asr innal insana lafi khusr wa tawasaw والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر وتواصوا بالحق والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. آمين. ألم تر كيف فعل ربك بأصحاب الفيل ألم يجعل كيدهم في تضليل وأرسل عليهم طيرا أبابيل ترميهم بحجارة من سجيل فجعلهم كعصف مأكول. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. ربنا. الله أكبر. سمع الله. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Thank you for joining us for today's Friday service. My apologies for getting confused because my attention was diverted and then I forgot where I was. Apologies for that. Please do continue to pray for the whole of humanity. It seems to have lost its way somewhere along the line. That we regard all human beings as human beings and look after their welfare regardless of their religion, sect, country, language, color, creed, etc. Especially in this month, but not only in this month of Ramadan, but always. Assalamu alaikum, Khuda Hafiz, goodbye.